Hi everyone, how are we?
Bye.
Hi.
Happy Wednesday. Getting on. Anything strange since I saw you last?
I'm recovering from sad, I think.
You
You
say
know,
that again, Maria?
I think I'm recovering from sad.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. My sister bought me a lamp, a sad lamp. I think
Oh,
the last three weeks, I think January has been really hard for many people, and
yeah,
I found it really, really hard as well. So
yeah,
my sister bought me a one of those light therapy
yeah.
lamps.
Yes.
And I think they do work actually.
Yeah,
Mind
you've
you're keeping
noticed.
it on all day.
Yeah, yeah. You've noticed a difference.
Yeah, yeah, it feels it's amazing, how light can, or the lack of light can
Yeah.
actually affect you, can it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And considering last summer really wasn't great, and that has a knock-on effect, then it just makes the winter very long. So by the time you're getting into January, yeah,
It's dragging.
craving the light, craving the brighter evenings and warmer weather. And so that's a great idea.
Yeah, I never thought that that would work, but it seems to be. I've been using it now for a couple of weeks.
Hmm,
I didn't see much of it on the first week, but I'm feeling a little bit more motivated this week.
excellent. Well done. Fantastic.
We've got some in our gym. I always switch them on whenever I'm in the gym in the morning. Because obviously
Mm,
it's so dark here for this time of year. We have it's less than 6 hours daylight through the winter. So
very
Oh,
tough.
yeah.
Yeah.
and then even if it doesn't even necessarily get really light because if it's low cloud like it's been today.
Yeah. So what time is the sun up then? And then what time is it bright until?
So the shortest day, it doesn't get light until gone 9 a.m. and then it starts getting dark again about 3.
Wow.
But in the summer it doesn't get dark.
Okay.
So through like when we get
Right.
the
So
longest
you've
day,
one
it's
extreme or the other. Yeah.
yeah, it's like a full moon. So the
Okay.
sun just actually brushes under the horizon. So we have something called nautical twilight. So it's
Yeah.
not fully dark.
Wow. Gosh,
Yeah, so
very-
that really messes with your sleep.
yeah, definitely. Absolutely. But that's a good idea, switching on again. More advocates for the lights, which is great.
Hmm.
Excellent. So how has everybody been? Any
Hi.
news?
Yeah, I've got a new job.
Oh, Kathy, well done. Congratulations.
Well done. Haley, I think, probably knows what it is.
Yeah.
I've started as the TSD physio.
Oh,
Yay.
that's
I
amazing.
thought I
I
saw that.
only short term until Tristan passes his finals and obviously takes over. But
Mhm.
yeah, so it's a few months. But my partner, my new partner, everything's a bit new with me, says to me, I thought
Kathy,
you were
the
working.
partner. Get that quiet.
Oh yeah, that was some people know that was a few months.
Very good.
Um, yeah, everything's sort of changing very much with me. So yeah, his comment was, I thought you were working towards retirement, and here's me got 3 jobs now. Doesn't sort of work with me. I think I need lessons in how to work towards retirement.
Okay, yes, we put that onto the list. Yes, yes. But yeah, but look, when you love what you do and you're passionate about it, it's hard to walk
Yeah,
away completely from it. Nor do you have to if you want to stay in with it.
yeah, no, but so yeah, I'm working full time in a bit.
Wow. Well, fair play, Kathy. Excellent.
TSD Magic.
Yeah.
I joined the dating site
Oh,
and I'm in serious conversations with somebody.
amazing, Rhonda. This is great.
I haven't dated since 1984.
Wow.
Oh,
This is amazing. Well done. Because it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to be vulnerable, put yourself out there, isn't it?
Love is in the air. Every time we
Well, that's very exciting. Well, Rhonda, you'll have to keep us posted.
Yeah. Early days.
Yeah.
Excellent. Christine, you have a beautiful dog there.
Thank you.
Like a priest is joining us tonight, which is great. Alrighty. Well, if we've no other news, you keep us all posted on the great updates. So if we've no other news, we'll go ahead and get started on tonight's topic. So just a reminder to everybody, we're going to use the chat box for this section. So if you don't mind muting your microphones, and we'll use the chat box for the next couple of minutes, and then we'll head into the breakout rooms and we'll have a chat there. Okay, so for this evening's topic, we're going to be talking all things managing setbacks. Okay, so to get us started into the chat box, when we hear the term setback, what do you think we mean by setback? Or how would you define a setback? How would you visualize a setback? So into the chat box, what do we think? How would we define a setback, or how? No right or wrong answers now. Just want to get a sense of how would we define it? So Anne is saying things not going as planned. Oh, very good. Excellent. Yeah. So we've got an idea of this is how things are going to go. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves going off in a different direction, going on a side road. Yeah. Very good. Excellent. And Maria is saying, oh, a day off. It could be. Yeah. Excellent. Very good. Day off the plan, etc. Yeah. And Maria is saying plans not progressing. Oh, excellent. So maybe we have a timeline in mind for when we expect to reach certain goals, for example, but we find that we're not making progress towards those goals. Yeah, very good. Rhonda's saying a hiccup. I like that. That's a good way of putting it. Exactly. So it is just kind of, if we think about it, straight line and we're trucking along nicely and then we kind of, and then we get back to it. Yeah, good way of describing it. Haley, things not going in a linear order. Yes. Unfortunately, life is not linear. And maybe a drop down, which makes us feel like we're failing. Oh, very good. Yeah. So equally, we might feel like, oh, we're making progress. And then we've got a bit of a dip. And then we come back up. And so it could be a dip in the other direction. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. And of course, as humans, we all anticipate that everything's going to go in a linear order. But we know that's not actually reality of what happens. Very good. Pamela is saying putting on weight and not motivated. Oh, very good. Yeah. So thinking about setbacks, both from, our goals perspective, but also setbacks in terms of our mindset. Yeah. And it's such a good point because we often think about motivation as being something, it'll just be there all the time. It's not going to be there all the time. Nothing as a human is going to be there all the time. It's going to take dips. It's going to spike. It's going to, be hard to find for a while. And again, we can often anticipate that as being, this is a really bad thing. Yep. Anna's saying an injury. Yeah, absolutely. And again, we might be in a great place with our mindset. We might be really motivated. We've been making great work. And then an injury comes in and it can be very frustrating, very annoying because we know what we want to be doing, but we can't do it. Yeah, very good. Christine, an unforeseen incident. Yeah, very good. So, I mean, in some cases we might say, that's coming on down the road. That might be a bit of an issue, but oftentimes we don't see these setbacks. We don't see what's coming down the road. Yeah, absolutely. And Kathy, weight going the wrong way. Yeah, very good. And again, that sort of sense of we always expect to be going progress, but as humans, it's just not possible. Doesn't matter what you're doing in life, you just can't keep progressing on this upward trend. Just doesn't happen. And Sam, not achieving what you'd hoped for. Oh, very good. Yeah, excellent. So kind of a sense of, right, I want to get to that place or do that thing by that date. And then realizing, no, I'm not going to get there, or I'm not going to be able to do that thing at this point. But again, because maybe we had a timeline in mind, we didn't quite hit the timeline, that could be a setback for us. Yeah, very good. And Alice is saying not achieving plans. Very good. Yeah, so we might set a plan for our life and work and family and community with our healthy lifestyle goals. And again, we're just kind of falling short of them. Yeah. And Dawn is saying something that potentially halts progression. Very good. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and like we said, there could be anything. It could be mindset. It could be a physical injury. It could be something going on in our lives. Very good. Yeah. And halts progression as well is a good way of putting that, because again, it is going to slow us down or get in our way, or yeah, very good. And Meryl, not feeling enthused to exercise. Yeah, very good. Yeah, excellent. And again, that sort of sense of my motivation is gone and I can't find it. It's lost out there in the wilderness somewhere. Yeah, very good. And it could be outside issues or influence. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the setbacks are within our control, and we can take those active steps, but oftentimes there might be issues within our life that actually we can't control, and there's very little that we can do about them. And then it's just a case of trying to minimize their impact. Yeah, very good. And Sam, in my motorway analogy, I'm at the services and my journey isn't moving forward. Oh, very good. Yeah. And I may even end up on a B road. That's a very good analogy. Yeah, exactly. Because you do kind of feel stuck. You do kind of feel like, I want to be on this journey. I want to be moving. I want to be making progress. But again, it's very hard for us to do that. Yep. Sati, you can only stay for this bit as I'm still at work. Oh, very good, Sati. Good to see you. And yeah, no apologies at all. Excellent stuff. Okay, very good, everybody. Well done. So we've got a good sense of what, you know, a setback can kind of look for us, and how it can affect us. Okay, so in terms of setbacks, right, what we always have to remember is, and what we're working towards is change. Okay, so we are looking to change our unhelpful behaviors, right? And that's going to help us. And it's also going to have a benefit for the people who are around us. However, as we've spoken about previously, we know that our behaviors can become highly ingrained, right? So the more that we do something over and over and over again, we are forming connections in our brain, right? So let's say I've had a really tough day at work, and then I decide I'm going to reward myself with something very unhealthy, right? The more that I do that, the more that I am going to actually ingrain that habit into my brain. And the more the things are ingrained, the harder it is, right, to undo those habits and to relearn new ones. So we know that because of this process, right, that even with our best efforts, 100% effort, 100% motivation, we're still going to experience setbacks, right? Because again, this is how our brain is wired. That doesn't mean we can't use the science to help us, but it is just important to understand that the things that we do as humans, right, and we've all sorts of habits, but those habits tend to become quite ingrained in our brain. Okay. So we perform these habits automatically without thinking. So if we were thinking of an unhealthy habit that we might get into, can anybody into the chat box, give us some examples of the types of habits that might become highly ingrained that we find difficult to break these habits, and we find difficult to form new habits. So some examples there of an unhealthy habit that can become ingrained in our brain, right? So again, remembering the more that we do something, the more that it becomes reinforced, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent for us. If we kind of say, oh yeah, but that's what I do in this situation, and the more you do it, your brain is like, oh yeah, this is what we do when we're in this situation. Yeah, very good. Okay, so Sam is saying snacking when watching TV. Very good. Excellent. Yeah, very good example. Haley, glass of wine with dinner. Excellent. Yeah, very good. And Alice is saying snacking while watching the TV. Oh, excellent. Yeah, very good. And again, so many of these habits, we can become quite kind of mindless in terms of, it's like we've already done it and we haven't even noticed that we're engaging in this habit. Yeah, very good. And Maria saying alcohol if stressed. Yeah, exactly. And again, you know, thinking about forming that habit, but also looking at other people and other people, you know, we have this sort of perception that, oh, alcohol helps us to de-stress, but it's also a depressant. So therefore, if you are struggling with low mood or stress, etc., it's going to make it worse. But again, because we get into these habits, we don't actually think about it. We don't actually say, is this actually helping me? Or is it actually doing more harm than it is good? Yeah, very good. Haley is saying the snacks, very good. Yeah, excellent. And Anne is saying having to have biscuits with a cup of tea, very good. Yeah, exactly. So again, I formed this habit that every time I sit down with my cup of tea, I have to have something there on a plate beside me. That is a habit, right? And again, the more that we do it, the harder it is to undo it. Yep. Christine, buying snacks at shopping. Yeah, very good. So you pass a certain aisle and you start to say, oh yeah, I'm going to start putting things in my basket. Yeah, very good. Always have dessert after a meal, even if full. Oh, that's a good one, Julie. Yeah. And again, you know, you think about you're in a restaurant situation. Again, the people in the restaurant want to sell you as much as they can. So even if you've already had plenty of food, they're going to come with that dessert menu. You know, and it's hard. It's hard when they present it in front of you. And especially if, again, kind of growing up, well, this is what we do. We always have dessert of some sort, and you get into that habit. Yep, very good. Earl is saying biscuits with an evening cuppa, very good. Yeah, excellent. And again, time of day can also dictate our habits as well. Yep. And cake at work, yes, very good. And during the night, so when you're looking for sugar, you're looking for something to keep you awake. Yeah, very good. Anne is saying nibbling when cooking, very good. Yeah, excellent. Carbs when tired. Yeah, and again, trying to get that energy, trying to keep yourself going. Yeah, and instead of kind of thinking, right, I've got to go, I've got to get something healthy that's going to give me the energy, we just kind of go on autopilot to whatever is handiest. Yep. And Maria finishing a packet of biscuits. Oh, very good. Yep. So we don't want to just leave one or two there. We've just got to go through it. Sure, we may as well finish the packet now. Yeah, very good. And Rhonda, watching TV if stressed and not going to bed. Oh, very good. Yeah. And again, you know, depending on what we're watching, it may or may not be relaxing. Oftentimes it can cause us all sorts of stress and keep us awake and overstimulated and all that. Yeah. And Anne saying, well, since I've started snacking, I might as well pig out. Oh, very good. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about that now in just a minute, because that is an important transition from, okay, I've taken a step back or I've started my snacking, and instead of catching it there, it's now going to spiral. So that's what we're going to be chatting about. Yeah, very good. Hayley, clearing your plate. Yep. And Mum used to not let me leave the table unless I ate everything. Oh, yeah. So again, it's kind of those bad habits, isn't it? Yep. Very good. And eating everything on your plate when full, Christine. Excellent. Yeah, very good. And Deborah's here. Welcome. And you had everybody for tea. No problem. Hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so we're aware then of some of these habits, right, that we might experience. So what we want to remind ourselves is that it is hard to change these behaviors, right? As we always say, if it was easy, sure, everybody would be doing it, right? But it is hard. We have to rewire our brain. And as part of that process, again, remember, we're not robots. Change is never going to be perfect. Nothing you ever do in life is going to be perfect, right? So we have to accept that these setbacks are going to be part of the journey. They're not a particularly enjoyable or pleasant part of the journey, but they are an essential part of the journey. Okay, so when we're working towards our healthy lifestyle, right, and we're incorporating our exercise and we're incorporating our healthy eating, right, there's very few people who just start on day one and think, I've got this. This is going to go perfectly now for the rest of my life, right? It just doesn't happen like that. In the same way as we start a new class or we start a new hobby or we start something new, you know, we might kind of fly off in the first class and think, geez, I'm doing great here. And then you get into the second class and you're already struggling and you're saying, okay, this is hard, or I've been doing something not quite right, or that's just part of mastering, right? Whatever it is we're working towards in life. So nobody is doing it perfectly. And again, remember, we always look at the highlight reels. People very rarely in terms of social media and things like that are saying, well, here's all the things I did wrong today, right? It might be, here's all the things I did well today. Here's all the things I mastered today. So we do have to remind ourselves, particularly if we get into that mindset of comparing ourselves to other people, which is never going to be helpful. Okay, so we know when we're changing our lifestyle, we've got to learn to live differently, right? And as part of that process, when we're changing our lifestyle, we're changing the way that we do things. Of course, we're going to have some slips along the way, right? In the same way, going back to when you started to learn to walk and you started to crawl and then you had to stand and then you had to walk and then you had to run, you're going to fall plenty of times along that process, right? There's nobody who gets up, stands up the first time and just walks perfectly then for the rest of their lives. It just doesn't work like that. As humans, we have faults, we have setbacks. It's just part of the journey of being a human on earth. Okay. So we have to remember, if we take a step backwards and we stray from our exercise plan, we're straying from our healthy eating, it doesn't mean that we're not making progress, right? It may just mean that we're still learning. And as we go through life, right, life is going to be a learning process. We're going to get things wrong. So we're going to say this thing in this situation, we're going to do this thing in this situation and go, yeah, that didn't work out, I'm not going to do that again. That's part of the learning process. That's part of being a human. And we have sort of created this culture of, you know, fear around making mistakes and everything just has to look great and everything has to look perfect. But that's not reality. And the main thing is, and what's going to be key and what's going to determine our success in making change is how we handle setbacks. So are you somebody who, let's say, for example, goes for a job interview, right, and gets rejected, and you say, right, well, that's it. I'm not applying for any jobs ever again, right? And you just kind of throw everything, no, I'm not doing it anymore, right? And it's understandable. Your feelings have been hurt. You're feeling rejected. It doesn't exactly spur you on, you know? So you might be thinking, okay, yeah, I'm just going to throw it in. Or you might just be able to say, okay, it didn't work out with this employer, but that doesn't mean it's not going to work out with somebody else. Yeah, it hurt to get kicked, right? But I'm going to get myself back up and I'm going to try again. And that's how you handle a setback. So that's what we would consider to be resilience, right? So resilience is not that you're just flying through life and everything's going great. It's that when these things happen, when you experience setbacks and failure and all these different tough parts of life, that it's how we bounce back from them, right? And again, it's okay to temporarily fall apart, right? It's okay to just go. But the main thing is, as I always say, don't unpack and live there. Pick yourself back up and go, whoo, okay. I started to go down that road and now I am coming back and I'm getting back on track. So we want to remind ourselves we're learning. And what do we want to do? The whole objective of learning is, right, to improve ourselves. So we realize, okay, I went into that situation. Let's say, for example, I was going to a party and I hadn't thought about ahead of time, you know, how much I wanted to drink that evening, right? And then I woke up on Sunday and realized I drank too much. Okay, so we learn from that. So we'd say, okay, so the next time I go out, I need to have an idea. I need to have a cutoff point to say, I'm going to drink this amount of drinks and then that's me done for the evening, or I'm not going to drink at all, or whatever it is. So you learn from it and you say, okay, the next time I need to set boundaries with myself, and the next time you go and be better. But if you don't get it wrong, if you don't make a mistake, you can't possibly learn that. And you can't possibly know everything from day one. Nobody does, right? So it's a learning process. So it's really important to remind ourselves of that. Nobody's perfect at this, right? And it's not possible to perfect it. But of course we can learn and move forward as we go on. So it's not uncommon for people who've lost weight to start slipping back into old behaviors. It doesn't matter what sort of changes that you're trying to make in your life, right? It is not unusual that we start to go back to our old way of doing things, right? Now, more often than not, there tends to be something that triggers us to go back there. So if I was to say to you, what do you think might trigger us to go back to our old behaviors? Into the chat box, what sort of things in life do you think might cause us to go back to engage in these old habits or these old behaviors where we find ourselves saying, I haven't done that in ages, or I found myself doing that in a while. Oh, I wonder what's going on here. So what kind of triggers do you think that we might have that might sort of set us back? So Dawn is saying, getting to the target weight. Oh, very good. Yeah. So we kind of think, oh, geez, I got there now. And I can just go back to my old way of doing things. Yeah, very good. And same bereavement. Yeah, really tough one. And again, you just think about bereavement, you know, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whateverly, you're going to be exhausted. And like we've said, engaging in these changes and lifestyle change is hard. It takes a lot of energy. So if you're already going through a bereavement and then you're trying to, you know, do these changes on top of it, it's tough. Yeah, absolutely. And Rhonda is saying complacency. Yeah, very good. Yeah, excellent. And we all get complacent as humans. Again, that's just part of being a human. Yeah. Meryl, not drinking enough water. Excellent. Yeah, very good. We get dehydrated and do all sorts of things. Yeah, very good. And Haley is saying bereavement as well. Yeah, or a sad event. Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, we may be struggling with our mood, struggling with our energy. Yeah, and again, it's much easier to go back to the old ingrained habits that have been there for a long time rather than the new habits that are fairly fresh and new. Yeah. Julie saying boredom. Oh, very good. Yeah, and boredom can be very, very tricky to manage. You know, we can get very irritated, very restless. And then from there, sort of trying to do something to help improve it. Yeah, very good. And Christine's saying loneliness. Yeah, excellent. Julie, alcohol. Yeah, again, because the chemicals go into your brain and they start to affect your decision making and your judgment and all of those types of things. And again, it's easier to go back to autopilot than it is to think about what am I doing today? And Kathy's saying new relationship and socializing again. Oh, very good. Yeah. So finding ourselves in new situations, new challenging situations, situations that involve, vulnerability and things like that. Very good. Yeah. Haley, self-sabotage. Very good. Yeah. So we've been doing a little bit too well, or we start to think, maybe I don't deserve this. And what do? Go back to the old ways. Very good. And Sam, restrictive eating and denying yourself things. Oh, very good. Yeah, excellent. And Maria, food and sweets, gifts. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. And look, I mean, to a certain degree, we can say to people, please don't buy that, or don't bring that into the house, or, but people want to show you they care and they're thinking of you. And, so it can be tricky. Yeah. And Dawn, relationships. Yeah. And all of the complexities that come with them. Absolutely. Negative feedback, Haley. Yeah, from family. Very good. Yeah. And again, so we were talking about previously, people who don't understand and people who are often threatened, as we said. Christine, family or others cooking for you. Oh, very good. Yeah. And again, being able to set those boundaries, please don't add in a whole pile of salt, or please only give me, what I need to eat, and don't pile up the plate, etc. Yeah, very good. Injuries, yeah, absolutely. And again, with injuries, it's that break in our routine. And once we've broken that routine, because the structure is so helpful for us when we're making change. And when we lose that structure, it's very, very hard, and the motivation goes out the window. Yep, very good. And outside influences, very good. Yeah, comments from others, a tough one. Yeah. And hitting a plateau and making you lose momentum, very good, Haley. Yeah, excellent. And again, the plateau is inevitable. Nobody can escape the plateau. But again, in the same way with the setbacks, it's how we respond. So do we go, well, sod this now, I don't want to do it anymore? Or do we go, this is very frustrating, but I'm going to push through this, so I'm going to persevere? Yeah, very good. The second option is hard. Remember, it is always so much easier for our brain to go back to the old ingrained habits, right? Overwhelming other aspects of life, and we don't always live in silos, and stuff going on elsewhere affects all the areas. Absolutely, 100%. We don't live in all these separate little bubbles and go, I'm stepping out of this bubble now and I'm going to step into this bubble as I go into work or into life or whatever. They're all interconnected. Alice is saying being too busy and not making time for yourself. Very good. Yeah, excellent. And again, putting yourself way down the list. Yeah. And Pamela is saying, sorry, Sam. Oh, detach from process and coach. Yeah, very good. Excellent. And again, thinking about that avoidance, because oftentimes it is, I'll just put my head in the sand. But yeah, and sometimes reaching out to somebody such as your coach is hard. But again, remember, this is why the coaches are here. This is why we're all here at TSDS, to keep you on track so that you learn those sustainable habits. But again, if you go and disappear into the void, it's very difficult. So you're going to bring yourself out of the void, communicate, etc. Yep, very good. That's a good point. Okay, so again, because it's not uncommon for us to experience setbacks, again, it doesn't mean that it's inevitable, right? So it's not going to be a case of we're sitting around waiting for setbacks to happen, right? But we just want to try and minimize the likelihood that it's going to happen. What we want to remember as well is a lapse is what we would call a brief or a small slip in our weight loss efforts or exercise routine, etc. So a lapse is brief and small, right? Okay. And we were talking about some of our lapses there, which is excellent. Now, as we were chatting about earlier, again, just kind of thinking about, okay, so how I've got this lapse, but then it can start to progress, right? So we might be overeating during dinner for a day or two. It happens, particularly at Christmas, right? Or you're at a big wedding or 21st or something like that. Or you might say, I'm going on holidays and I'm not going to be able to do any physical activity. I'm not going to be able to do my exercises, right? Okay. So lapses are going to be a natural part of our weight management. They're going to be a natural part of our healthy lifestyle. At some point, everybody has them, right? Everybody can put their hand up and say they've experienced a small slip they've experienced a tricky moment. They've experienced brief periods of time when they return to an old habit, right? That's just part of being a human. And again, doesn't matter what area of life in which you're trying to make change, you're going to experience these things, right? But what we want to be thinking about is that when we have a lapse, right, if we leave it unchecked, right, then it can grow into what we would call a relapse. So we have a moment in the day, we have a day where things don't go well, we have a couple of days where things don't go well, and we go, right, okay, that wasn't ideal. I went off plan there, or I lost track of what I was doing or where I was going, etc. Right? And we get ourselves back on track. But when we're talking about a relapse, this is really where we start to go off that side road and we keep on going down that road, right? We're not even saying, geez, I need to make a U-turn here somewhere and get back to where I was. We're just carrying on down that dirt road, right? So how do we end up in a situation where we're going way off in the wrong direction, right? So usually a series of several small lapses, right? So like we were talking about in the chat box, we've got a series of these small little things which might seem insignificant, but when they all combine together, that's when it can snowball then into a full-blown relapse. And again, we just keep on going down that road. And like we were chatting about there, you know, we start to disconnect, or we don't reach out to our coach, and we're going way off plan, and etc. And the motivation is really struggling at that point. Okay, so what we want to be able to say is, right, I've had a lapse this week, today, whatever it is, and I don't want to now it snowball into a full-blown relapse, right? Because lapses are fairly straightforward in terms of how to come back from them. And it doesn't take that much time to come back from them. Once you relapse, once you go off down that road, right, and you go off down that road for a period of time, it can be hard to do that U-turn and to come back the other way, right? So the main thing is we want to catch it as quickly as we can, right? So that is going to be the most effective way to prevent a relapse. We want to be able to identify the lapses early, and that's a hard thing to do. As humans, we like to think we're all doing, you know, our best, and we are, but it's hard to put our hand up and say, yeah, that wasn't my best performance, or yikes, yeah, that didn't quite go to plan today, or yeah, okay, had too much to drink on Saturday night. It's a hard thing to do as humans, right? So we use all sorts of defense mechanisms and say, no, it was just the circumstances, or no, that wasn't anything to do with me, right? So the tough part is we have to be able to identify it. So we have to be able to say, okay, I've had a setback here. I've had a lapse, right? I behaved in a way that didn't want to behave, or said something that I shouldn't have said, whatever it is, right? So we want to identify that early and go, yeah, okay, that wasn't my best self there. We want to deal with them. So we want to identify, okay, what kind of led to the lapse? Did something happen here? Is there something going on in our lives that might be leading to this, right? So it's a bit like kind of doing an autopsy. We want to sit down and say, what actually happened here, right? Okay, that happened, then that led to that, then that led to that. Okay. And that, if we're able to follow those steps, then that can prevent them from turning into a relapse. So we want to identify, first of all, I've started driving down the dirt road, right? I've gone off track here, right? I need to figure out, how did I end up going down this dirt track, right? This thing happened in life, or somebody said something, or something happened. Okay, I see why that would have sent me off down that road. However, I've got to turn myself back around, and I've got to get back up, right, onto the other road. So we just have to be able to say, you know, and as I said earlier on, it's not a question perfectionism. It's okay to have a setback. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail at things. It's okay to miss those targets. And you put your hand up and say, okay, didn't quite get there. And now I want to work out what kind of led me to that place. And more so, how can I get myself back on track without allowing it to spiral then into a full-blown relapse? Okay, so what I would like you to do for a couple of minutes in the breakout rooms. Okay, so I want you to have a little think about, first and foremost, how can we prevent a lapse turning into a full-blown relapse? So what are a couple of steps that we can take, right, to prevent a lapse turning into a full-blown lapse? So any ideas there? And the second question is, how do we move forward towards our goals after experiencing a lapse? So this is really about thinking about, right, so how do I go forward from here? So I've identified that I've had a lapse. I don't want to turn it into a relapse, right? I prevented it from not turning into a relapse. And now that I'm back on that road that I need to be on, how do I move forward from here, right? Okay. So how do we prevent a lapse turning into a full-blown relapse? And the second thing is, how do we move forward towards our goals after experiencing a lapse? Sati, you have to go. No problem. Good to see you. And I'll just do the breakout rooms there now. Just bear with me for a second. Okay. And see. Away you go. Welcome back, everyone. How are we? How do we get on?
Okay.
Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So let's go to, we'll go room number 1. So we have Hayley, Maria, Earl, Pamela, and Rhonda. How did you get on?
Shall I go? Okay. So we talked about the need to own it. You know, if you've had a lapse, you need to own it. And I think when you identify it, sometimes we can identify and go, oh, yeah, I've had a bit of a lapse, but it was because of this and because of that, and oh, it'll be okay. And actually, I didn't put on any weight, so it's all right. And actually, sometimes then you're not really owning it, so you're not going to move forward. So we said to own it and then to reach out to someone who you're accountable to. And we're very fortunate.
Very good. Yes.
So we do that.
Excellent.
And then, but also at the same time to recognise that, okay, that's done. We can't change it. We need to draw that line under the sand, and not to then be really negative on ourselves, because then that actually causes that vicious cycle where actually being really horrible to yourself and really negative, and then you feel down and you might start going back to the things that you'd lapsed with. So actually recognising it for what it is, owning it and moving on. We talked about how things like cravings can actually lead to a lapse, because sometimes, you know, our bodies or our miles just crave certain things, and it can be very easy to give those cravings. And once you've given in once, the temptation is to give in further. And then we had a little conversation about moving on. So I think it was Marie said about you know, she doesn't drink coffee now because coffee to her is, she associates it with having cake or something sweet with it. So she drinks water because it doesn't have that association.
Avoid triggers. Excellent.
Yeah. So, you know, putting something in to help us move forward after a lapse, and to recognise that one bad meal or one bad day doesn't a bad week make. You know, it's you know, if you've had a couple of bad meals or what have you, it doesn't mean the week is totally written off, and you can pull it back and, you know, just be positive about it. And there was probably loads of other things, but I know we're always short on time and don't know if anybody else wants to say.
Well done. Yeah, brilliant. So I liked the, you know, you had the accountability, and then even in terms of, as you said there, of mindset, that it, you know, you can choose to go down and say, well, everything's ruined now, or you can choose to say, okay, you know, I had a bad day, I had a bad week, and I just move forward from here. Very good. Done. Excellent. Okay, so we'll go to room number 2. So we had Anne, Dawn, Jen, Kathy, and Sam. Do we have a spokesperson? Or will I pick someone? Jen? I'll pick Jen. Are you happy to speak for your group, Jen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, no, you've all frozen.
Jen wasn't
Somebody else might have to do it, because I say I've got a bad connection.
Oh, okay. Oh, Jen. Jen, we will get you next time. Will I pick on somebody else?
Is Anne frozen? I think Anne's frozen, hasn't she? Anne took the notes. So
Yeah.
Oh. A lot of what we said, I think, has just been said. I think
group 1 were listening to us.
Yeah. I think it was pretty much
they were earwigging on your conversation.
Yeah.
I think one of the other things that we did put down with it was journaling and reflection.
Oh, very good. Yes. And that reflection piece is so important, and being able to actually put it down on paper, and not, as I know group 1 said there, not piling on the shame. You know, shame has never been a motivator. So being able to reflect to remain, I think, objective with it, not
And
piling on judgment.
And
not piling on.
acceptance.
Yeah. Say that again, Dawn.
And acceptance that it's happened and time to move on.
Yeah. But that acceptance can be tough,
Talk
can't it?
gently. I think you kind of said it in the other group as well, but you know, you don't put yourself onto a big guilt trip. Don't sort of have all that negative self-talk about it, because that doesn't help. It just makes it worse. It cycles you down.
Exactly. Yeah. But again, if we've got that kind of habit of, this is how I respond to mistakes, this is how I respond to setbacks, you know, and again, particularly if, say, growing up, we were punished a lot for making mistakes or getting things wrong. And then that just becomes ingrained in our brain. When things go wrong, I punish myself. When things go wrong, I pile on the self-criticism, I pile on the judgment. So even that then has to change. And that's tricky, because we still all go back to that old way of doing things. So we have to be able to recognize that that's not going to be helpful for us and not going to be productive. Yes, very good. I like bringing in the journaling as well. Excellent stuff. Yeah. Well done, room 2. All right. And last but not least, poor room 3 has dwindled to very little. We've got, but amazingly, we've still got 2 members left, Christine and Deborah. How did you get on? I'm afraid you'll have to speak for everyone else who disappeared.
Well, you're all right, because you've got a gobby one, so you're fine.
Deborah's got 4 minutes. Let's go.
Right. Okay. Well, I think pretty much everyone else is covered. And I think people who've been on the program or longer, probably a bit of an expert at having the odd lapse and how not deal with it. I can tell you everything what not to do, because it's exactly what I did last year. Don't speak negatively to yourself. Don't stack up all the things what you feel like you're not doing.
Very good.
Because it just does nothing but cause misery.
Yes.
How to try and avoid it: reach out to your coach, book calls with yourself, with Jessica, take all of the help what's on offer. Because I did, and I feel like a different person now. Don't dwell on what's happened, just try and move forward. So I didn't do any of that last year initially. I was having a pretty crappy time, but I did start journaling, I did start meditation, I did reach out for help, and then I've come back in January and did a full complete reset. So I classed it as day 1 back on TSD, got weighed, measured, progress photos took, and then I'm back to the gym, back doing joining the inner circle, joining the masterminds again, and just I'm in this process at the moment where normally it's good to reflect back, but for me at the moment, I don't want to reflect back, because then I'll just think of things where I feel like I've unachieved, whereas I just want to look forward now to see where my journey's going to go. So Christine, I don't know if I've missed anything. If I have, please, you might have a minute.
Yeah, well done. No, absolutely. And I think, look, the take-home messages that you all have covered is fantastic. That the first part is that accountability. And that is a tough thing to kind of hold the mirror up to ourselves and say, whew, okay, it happened. And again, it's going to be so much easier. The accountability is so much easier when you're showing yourself that compassion, you know, when you're leaving the judgment at the door and the shame and all that stuff. It just doesn't help. And then reaching out to your coach, reaching out to TSD staff, reaching out to each other on the inner circle. Again, if you go into the void, you know, it's very hard to reach you there. You've got to be able to say, listen, I'm having a difficult day, or I'm having a setback. And that's a hard thing to do. It's really great to be able to go to people and say, oh, I'm doing really well and everything's going great and I'm delighted. It's a harder thing to say, I'm really struggling here and I need some help, right? But again, that's part of the process, is learning to ask for help. And then, like we said, being able, as Deborah said there, being able to leave it behind. Because continuously going and thinking about it and beating yourself up over the head about it, it's not useful. You've learned the lesson. Now apply the lesson and move forward. You don't have to keep criticizing yourselves. And again, sometimes we think, oh yeah, but you know what, if I don't keep criticizing myself, I don't keep going over it, maybe I'll do it again. No, you'll be far more motivated to change that habit if you say, okay, it was just a mistake, just didn't go my way, not to worry, move on. I've learned from it and here I go. That's far more motivating for change than beating yourself up and criticizing yourself and judging yourself. So well done, everybody. Excellent. Oh, and Christine said to reread the whys. Excellent. Yes. Very, very good. Why am I here? Yeah. Brilliant. So well done, everybody. Great to see you all. I hope you all have a lovely week. And I'll see you same time, same place next week.
See you later.
Okay.
Take
Bye.
care,
See you
guys.
later. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.